Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Happy to see everybody here today. We have Dr. Maurita who will give our message and do the service today. And Rick, are you playing special music?
Apparently I am.
Okay, thank you. And if you please silence your phones during the service, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't know how to do that.
No. I'm really prepared. I'm live. If nobody noticed. I wanted to greet you all, say good morning, and happy June, and today's a birthday Sunday, by God. So we expect to have something good to eat after our service this morning. But thank you so much for being with us. And thank you who are looking at us on the internet as well. We're so happy to have you join us. It's a good day. It's a wonderful day. It's a day to talk about our Bible reading too. I found some good ones, but there are so many good ones in the Bible, aren't there? You get up in the morning and they say that you ought to smile at yourself in the mirror because it, gets you started in a positive way. However, that's something that one has to remind oneself of. But if you remind yourself not only to smile at yourself, but to say something like this to yourself, you will change the temperature of your mind, the feeling in your body, your how you look forward to that day. Listen to this. These are both from Psalms, by the way, the 18th and the 27th Psalm. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. The Lord is my light and my salvation. The Lord is the strength of my life. A lovely thought. Yeah, you get up some mornings and you don't feel quite as well as you might. Got a little pain here or there. Don't have quite as much energy as you'd like to. The day is right before you. You gotta work on it. If you change that pattern of thinking and say something like this to yourself, the Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my light, my salvation, the strength that I need, mental, emotional, physical strength that I need this day. And it's right here for me. It's always here for me. Changes everything. Changes the whole temperature of your mind and your body and your expectation for the day. It's wonderful. We are energy beings. We are made of energy. And thought is an energy that affects everything else. If we change the thought, the body changes. This is not smoke and mirrors, believe me. This is science. We say to ourselves positive, truthful statements while we're brushing our teeth. Changes the day for the better. The psalmist knew it. He probably didn't brush his teeth. But he said these things not only writing them down. They say King David was the one who did this, who wrote these. But he knew them inside. And that's what we need. We need to know them inside. And our days are filled with an inner sunshine, whether it's sunny as it is today, outside or not. It's wonderful to know and wonderful to remember the truth. Oh, it's so available in the Bible, boy. But what we have to do is do the remembering. Keep on doing it. Shall we read our statement of being, which is on the television over here, together?
God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God, and I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rick. It is time for us to get still. To do one of those things that benefits us in so many dimensions of our existence. Oh me, meditation, quieting body and mind, just checking ourselves, our faces and our jaws. Are they tight or relaxed? Our shoulders, let it go, just let them go. Backs and fronts, our buttocks, legs and feet. Release and feel a sense of peace fill the body. And with the body relaxed, we can then much more easily quiet the mind, silence the mind, the monkey mind that chatters on constantly. We can getting drowsy perhaps, so that we can enjoy the silence, the peace. For in God we find a fruitful silence, and in that silence we find the feeling, the sense of a presence of love, a presence of healing, a sense that all truly is well, everything is in divine order, whether we can see it or not, and in it is infinite good. Right where we are is good. No matter what the challenges, physical, mental, financial, interpersonal, doesn't matter. Right there is good. Right there is opportunity. Right there is our challenge spiritually. Wherever the pain is, no matter what kind of pain it is, there's our assignment. Our assignment to let go and let God. To relax mentally into an awareness of the goodness, the availability of help, of inspiration, a sense that it's going to turn out. It's going to turn out okay. As we move into both our relaxation physically and mentally, and then as we move into that deeper sense, that deeper reality, we are healed, we are led, we are protected, we are guided, we are blessed, we are healed. All is well. When we walked through the doors of this room this morning, we brought with us challenges. They're in the back of the mind right now, but perhaps we can bring them to the front of our mind. The challenges are little ones, big ones. Matters not. For in the next 90 seconds, we are going to bring them out and know that God is right there. If life is so fulfilling and wonderful that you don't have any challenges, large or small, then you can bring to mind some of the controversies in our country, the war overseas, or the things that you feel strongly about are being done, that are being done, or are not being done in our nation, in our state or city or neighborhood, and hold them in that light of knowing that God is right there, and it is in divine order because it is a process and good is going to come through it. So, starting now, let's put the challenge right where it needs to be, in God's hands. Come unto me, all ye who are heavy laden, or lightly laden, and I will give you rest. I will let you do yourself the favor of resting in me, of relaxing, letting go of the body and letting go of the worry, the concern, the fear. Right now, God is, and God is in the midst of every challenge, every opportunity, every good and everything that we see as not so good. Thank you, beloved one, that it is so. Amen.
Amen.
Now shall we read together the Neuro translation of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who is everywhere, your name is sacred, your kingdom is come, your will is throughout the earth, even as it is throughout the universe. You give us our needful bread from day to day, and you forgive us our offenses, even as we forgive our offenders. And you let us not enter into materialism, but you separate us from error, because yours are the kingdom, the power, and the song and praise from all ages, throughout all ages, sealed in faith, trust, and truth. Amen.
So it is.
Well, today I'm going to be talking about Pentecost. Pentecost. That was the day, actually, that the Christian church truly came into being. Now, we would not be sitting in this room today if there hadn't been a Pentecost. There hadn't been a large room filled with people who had a profound spiritual experience. That was not as we have always thought. The preaching of Jesus, the miracles that Jesus did, the healings that he did, that was not what really started the church. Pentecost was where the church started, truly. But before I share that beautiful story from Acts with you, I wanted to share a bit of the background of the church. The Gospels actually give very different endings to the ministry of Jesus. They didn't get together and talk this over and agree on exactly what happened at all. Matthew, for instance, has Jesus meeting the apostles in Galilee after his resurrection. And then in his gospel, nothing whatever is said about Jesus' ascension into heaven. Nothing. Now Mark, on the other hand, has Jesus appearing and speaking to the 11 apostles right after his resurrection, and then immediately ascending to heaven. That was another version. In the book of John, Jesus appears to the apostles three times after the resurrection. But again, nothing's mentioned about an ascension. So, however, in the book of Luke, we get a much fuller picture because Luke, or whoever the author really was, who just took on the name of Luke, the author writes that not only the gospel according to Luke was one of his prize gifts to life, but this man is also the author of the Acts of the Apostles. He wrote both of these. Luke wrote both Luke and the Acts of the Apostles. And of course that's where we find the story of Pentecost. We wouldn't have that story without Luke's help. Now, at the end of the Gospel of Luke, Jesus appears to the group after the resurrection, and he tells them, you need to stay in Jerusalem until, and I quote, until you are clothed with power from on high. I don't know about you, but I'd hang around if I could be sure that I was going to get a power from on high. Well, but it's at that moment, after he says that he blesses all of them and he disappears. Now, I don't know what happened. They say, he went up into heaven, or a cloud surrounded him, but apparently Jesus had the ability to change his vibratory rate so that he became invisible. He'd done this several times, and he did it once again. He disappeared from their sight. Now, in Acts, we're told that during that 40 days between the resurrection and the ascension, Jesus appeared to the apostles many times. He ate with them, and most importantly, he taught them. He taught them, and I quote, concerning the kingdom of heaven. He was giving them spiritual ideas during those 40 days. In Acts, Jesus again repeats what he said in the Gospel of Luke, that they needed to stay in Jerusalem. They shouldn't leave, they shouldn't go home. They should stay right there. And again, quote, wait on the promise of the Father. In Jerusalem, Jesus' disciples and all the other devotees seem to have stayed in what was called an upper room. An upper room. You probably all read that in the Bible. It must have been a very, very large room, because Luke tells us that there were 120 men in the room, not counting the women. Now, there was a group of devoted women followers that had been following him for years and were, as a matter of fact, paying for a lot of the travel costs out of their own their own money. They traveled with him. In addition to the women, and they were seldom really named, occasionally. In addition to them, Jesus' mother and his brothers were in the room. And no, they were not sitting around playing bridge. They were in prayer all the time. Now, I want to read from Acts, the 2nd chapter, the 1st through the 4th verses. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues, like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues. Amazing spiritual experience. Now, the word Pentecost actually is a Greek word, not a Hebrew word. And it, of course, did refer to one of the big Hebrew religious holidays. In Hebrew, rather than in Greek, and of course it was named that throughout Palestine because they referred to it in the Hebrew language. This religious holiday was called the Feast of Harvest. It was a celebration, actually, of the beginning of the wheat harvest. And you know how important bread was. That was the staff of life. That was the main course in any meal, bread. So they had a big celebration at the beginning of the wheat harvest, when they would get the grain and begin to bring the grain into their homes. Now, Palestine had 2 harvests every year, and each one was a pilgrim harvest. What does that mean? That's where pilgrims came from all over the country, all over Palestine and nearby countries, to bring tithes of thanksgiving, to celebrate in the great temple in Jerusalem for this wheat harvest that they were both enjoying and looking forward to. As a matter of fact, in one of the celebrations at the temple, 2 large loaves of bread were part of the ceremony. So they gave great thanks for that harvest. Now, it was actually a day that was free from work, so a lot of people came to the city. Now, the city was full of people from all over. I want to read a little bit more from Acts. This is the 2nd chapter. It's the 5th through the 15th verse. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven. See, they came from all over for this festival. Now, when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. They'd heard the wind, the sound of the wind in that house, and they came to find out what was going on. But what they found was that the people in that house were speaking in different languages to them. Every man heard them speak in his own language. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born? Parthians and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers of Mesopotamia and Judea and in Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia in Egypt and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. Do we hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of God? And they were all amazed, and were in doubt, saying to one another, What meaneth this? Others mockingly said, These men are full of new wine. But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice, and said unto them, Ye men of Judea, and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words, for these are not drunken, as you suppose, seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day. The 3rd hour was 9 o'clock in the morning. And it was a rule in that society you didn't start drinking before noon. It's at 9 o'clock. They weren't drunk. They couldn't be drunk. So, interesting. Speaking to everybody in that crowd in their own languages. And you saw how many languages would have been spoken. There are several places in John's Gospel where it said that the disciples were hiding from the authorities, quote, for fear of the Jews, unquote. And what that meant was they were scared stiff. They thought they got Jesus and now they're going to come after us and kill us, and in that way they'll just do away with this whole movement. They'll kill it in one fell swoop. But after Pentecost, no matter how much fear they might have felt before that day, after that day, fear vanished. They were no longer afraid. Not only did they find themselves fearless, but they also found themselves, again, speaking in these languages that they did not know. They were healing people right and left. They were largely illiterate men. There was one that was educated. It was Matthew. He was a tax collector. He was educated. All the others were fishermen, simple people. But these illiterate people, Simon, Peter and the others, started preaching, understanding what they were saying, and convincing other people of what they were saying about Jesus of Nazareth. They were quoting the Old Testament. All the things that had been said in the Old Testament that prophesied that Jesus would come. They had never done anything like this before. They had never done any preaching whatsoever. Now, many of the people who were listening to them found themselves moved emotionally, interested, wanting to take part. And after the apostles and the others had had this transforming experience of Pentecost and the desire, the need to share everything that they had experienced with Jesus, 3,000 people repented the mistakes that they had made in their lives. They believed in what they were taught, what the apostles were saying about Jesus. They believed in his message, and they were baptized. 3,000 people, one day. The apostles continued speaking, continued bringing about virtual miracles in Jerusalem. And there was literally an avalanche of people who became followers of what the apostles considered a new branch of Judaism. Remember, Jesus said that he had come to serve the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He'd come for the Jews. But that isn't the way it worked out, really. They were very, very surprised when large numbers of Gentiles began hearing the story of Jesus' death and resurrection. and became convinced that Jesus was indeed the Messiah. And they wanted part of this. They wanted to join. They wanted to be part of this electrifying group. Now, many Orthodox Jews were part of the movement. They had begun with the Jewish population, speaking to them, convincing them. But the more conservative of them began insisting that the Gentiles had to convert to Judaism before they could be baptized. Well, this meant that they had to be circumcised, they had to obey all the dietary laws, and they had to observe the Sabbath before they could become followers of Christ. Well, James, the brother of Jesus, made the decision that they did not have to convert to Judaism before being baptized. And this caused a very serious breach in the church. A division that only became larger. The apostles had absolutely no intention, no interest in creating a rival religious movement. That was not in the cards as far as they were concerned. But in the 2nd century, the Jews rejected Christianity and actually persecuted the Christians. It was then that the Jesus group became a wholly separate organization filled largely with Gentiles who regularly, after being baptized, began showing some of the signs of Gnosticism, actually. They began speaking in tongues, they began healing and prophesying as well, much to the surprise of Jesus' followers. Oh, those first few days after Pentecost, the first few months and even years must have been such an exciting, uplifting, fulfilling time for all the people, the men and the women who were in the upper room when that mighty wind blew and what appeared like tongues of fire rested on each of them. Now, symbolically, it said that fire is the symbol of God's love and love in action. So God's love was what perhaps filled them so full that it erased fear. It gave them only a certainty of what they had to do. And this transforming experience of God's love fundamentally changed everybody in that room. They knew that Jesus was the Messiah who had long been prophesied by the Hebrew prophets. And now they knew also that they had to share the great truths that he taught with everybody who would listen, no matter what. Now, in weeks past, I've spoken at some length about the Gnostics. They were part of the spiritual Christian community, and a part in which the members felt like they had an experience of knowing truth. Now, one of the people I've spoken about was Thomas, and read you parts of the Gospel of Thomas. He was called the twin. And I've shared with you readings also from the Acts of John. John was the beloved disciple. And some of the accounts of his experiences with Jesus. Now, both of these men identified really as Gnostics because they knew. They knew the truth. Both of these men experienced Pentecost. They had both been there that special day. Both of these men shared what they called the secret teachings of Jesus, possibly some of the spiritual truths that Jesus had shared during the 40 days between his resurrection and his ascension. As we heard, the metaphysical interpretation of what these, that is Thomas and John both said, these spiritual statements that they have in their writings just made sense. They echoed the spiritual principles that we believe in. We almost have the sense that these people are talking to us. These men who experienced Pentecost, are trying to convey truth to all of us as well. Now, I want to share with you one of the statements from Thomas. And it's similar to the parables that you find in the book of Matthew, like the parable of the pearl, and the parable of the hidden treasure. You remember what those are about? Because this is a similar idea. I want to quote. He said, "The man is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of small fish. Among them, the wise fisherman found a fine large fish. He threw all the small fish back into the sea and chose the large fish without difficulty. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear." Now, what does that mean? The large fish symbolizes our spiritual life. It symbolizes our frequent thoughts that can reflect the truth of God and good, that both of those, God and good, are right where we are, in the midst of our lives, in the midst of our challenges. They are within and without. We are constantly in contact with that good. The Christ within us, our soul nature, is one with this mind of love, this God of love, that is both universal and perfect and personal. The wise fisherman that Thomas is talking about knows that this is the supreme value in life. That's the big fish. That's the big fish for us. It needs to be consistently chosen. We throw out the little fish and keep the big one. The smaller fish are symbolic of the less important things in life, perhaps negative thoughts, which we wisely choose to discard. We throw them out of our mind, so we can occupy our minds with what is truth, and that is that we are one with unlimited good. We are one with ongoing peace and power. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. Can we hear it? We need to be open to this invaluable advice given to us by a man who shared the words of Jesus with us, who lived with Jesus for 3 years, who experienced Pentecost, the incomparable love and empowerment of God. One large fish that we can choose to hold on to tightly, is that each of us one day will experience Pentecost ourselves. One day we will know the presence of God, the love of God, and that experience is inevitable for each of us. Hold tight to that big fish. Let's go with him and give thanks that we have the words of people who experienced Pentecost if we could read them and gain an understanding, knowing that they probably got these ideas right from the mouth of the Master. How important, how central. We give thanks this day that we can hear and heed. Thank you, beloved Father, Mother, God. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Maurita, for your powerful message.
Thank you for your wonderful music.
It's been some time, a couple years, since we've since we've sung hymns or played hymns. I was reminded of the beauty of how great thou art. I heard it recently at a memorial service, and I'd like to go back to that today.
And so now in our service, we give thanks. We have a blessing of the gifts, and we are receiving gifts all the time, all the time. So now we have a chance, both mentally and physically, to give back. Shall we read our blessing of the gifts today? Today I acknowledge God, omnipresent, as the source of all good, as the source of my good. With this acknowledgement, I accept God's will, which is abundance in every aspect of my life. I release all thoughts of lack and limitation, and I am open and receptive to the increased flow of abundance to me right now. I joyfully accept the joys of life and live freely the special gift that I am. Through me, God omnipresent blesses and multiplies this gift for all. Thank you, dear God.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Rick, for stepping up and doing the music today, and for that song. That song always makes me cry, so gotta get it together here. It just always has. So thank you for playing it. I need to hear it today. Today is birthday Sunday. We have Pam and Rebecca and Sylvia. So Pam's here, so we will hum to Pam. Also forgot it's Kendrick's birthday, and the flowers today are sponsored by Amy Joe for Kendrick. I think he's now living in Maryland or someplace up north. So anyhow, but happy birthday to Kendrick. He's like 20 today or 21, and I remember he was like that. So running around through the church and had to yell at him. So goodness gracious, time does go by. Let's see. I got. We have our board. We elected our board members again, and Pam and Ann were re-elected. So thank you so much for volunteering to serve again. We appreciate that again. So you were on the board for another 2 years. So thank you so much for doing that, and thanks for all the people that turned in their ballots. We appreciate it. Let's see. We've talked about we're going to redo the floor in here in there. Excuse me. I'll get to this floor in a minute. But anyhow, we've gotten some estimates. We're going to get one more, and as I said last week, the estimates have been anywhere from $6,000 to $14,000, and we can forget the $14,000 one because that's like, no, not happening. But anyhow, we're going to get at least one more estimate, and then we will decide. And but we want to go ahead and start trying to raise some money to get this, hope to get it done by the fall. So just kind of keeping people up to date with what's going on with that. So. Also, as you know, we've been doing a newsletter, and Ann had said before, I think we had announced that we're going to not do them every quarter, but we had one due out in June. Don't know that it's going to get done in June, maybe the 1st of July, but Pam's going to take over that, doing the newsletter for a while. Ann's got a lot of things going on right now, so anyhow, Pam's going to do it. So if anybody's got anything to go in the newsletter, please see Pam or Ann or any of the board members, and we'll get it done. Hopefully get it done by the end of June. So we'll work on that. So if you've got any newsworthy stuff, give it to us and we'll put it in there. We were talking about this floor. This carpet needs to be cleaned. We were actually talking about it in the board meeting this morning. So we're going to have a work day one Saturday afternoon. We've got a couple of cleaners, maybe 2 or 3 shampoo cleaners, and but what we need was people to help us to move the chairs from one side to the other and whatever. So we will figure out that day. Pam's going to figure out what day she can get off on a Saturday afternoon, and we're going to work on that. So I'll let everybody know so we can get this carpet in here clean. I try to, sometimes we get to do this, but I know we have a lot of people that watch on the on Facebook, and then sometimes they go back and watch on the website. But a lot of times on Facebook, we have, over the course of a week or over a course of a month, we have anywhere from 200 to 2,000 people that at least look at part of our service. So, you know, the word's getting out there. Sometimes we get comments, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we've gotten comments that we really don't want to know about, but I do respond to those when best we can, in a nice way. So as we try to always be kind to people. So anyhow, that being said, do you have anything? You're going to start a New Testament class. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, on the 20th, that's a Monday at 4:30, I'll be starting a New Testament class, and it goes for 10 weeks. And we're going to be stirring around all these ideas that Jesus shared, and it'll be a good time. You need to sign up if you're interested in, if you have the notes, that is the lessons from previous times. Please make sure you make that known so we don't have to copy the lessons so much. And I urge you to sign up today if at all possible. Also, ordinarily we would be looking at an IONS meeting this week. That is the International Association of Near-Death Studies, which should take place routinely on Fridays, the second Friday of the month. However, I am going to be out of town for this second Friday of the month, so I moved the meeting to the third Friday. What am I saying? The third Friday evening of this month. So anybody who's interested, talk to me, and I'll make sure to put you on the email list, and you'll be notified of the meetings. But that's when it'll take place, a week from this Friday. Thank you.
Okay. And anything else? Your classes, but you're going to teach your class sometime in the fall, maybe?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay, all right, so we'll keep that in mind. All right, lastly, did you put the pets up?
Well, no, because then I have to flip over to the other thing too, so.
So, anyhow, we have started putting pictures of some pets up from the SPCA, hoping to get them adopted. We've actually had, we had one first cat we put up, got adopted before we even could get the picture up, and then we had Mac, which he also got adopted, and now,
Lucky.
Lucky.
and then there's the cat. So anyhow, we're just trying to throw them out there, and hopefully if you don't want a pet yourself, maybe you can know somebody that does want one. So look at Doug, he's laughing. You're like much like Doug. So I know most of us are pet lovers, and so if you know anybody or if you're looking for a pet, feel free to see the SPC or the Angel or the other rescue places, because as most of you all know, I try to make sure that animals get rescued instead of going to these puppy mills and getting these animals. They all need homes, but I do want to thank all of you all that, as most of you know, I put one of my pets down, and I appreciate all y'all's support, because it's been hard. As all of you know, most of you have been there. So anyhow, if you can know anybody wants another animal, feel free to pick them up and just take them all away. So I think that's all I have. Did you have something? Oh, you stand up. I thought maybe you had something you wanted to say. So okay. The other thing about the flowers is most of you already know that our flower lady got sick last year, and she has not been back. So Nancy has taken over the flower volunteer job, and she's done a wonderful job. She had to raise the price of the flowers from $20 to $25, and that's still a bargain. But anyhow, if you're going to sponsor flowers, please try to pay her the week before, so she'll have the cash when she goes to get them. But anyhow, she's done a beautiful job with them, and I got to get in touch with Amy Jo to see what she wants to do with these flowers, because I think she's out of town. So anyhow, enjoy them while they're here.
So the final thing that we will be doing today is praying for Ukraine and praying for our own country. But Ukraine comes first, so shall we say this prayer of protection for their soldiers there, the people there, the animals there, and for all of the things that all the weights, all the difficulties that these people are experiencing. Together, shall we say this prayer? The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. The mind of God guides you. The power of God abides in you. The strength of God renews you. Wherever you are, God is and all is well. Shall we go within for 1 minute to pray for the people of Ukraine? Pray for our own country by giving thanks in advance, as Jesus did, for the good that is going to come forth through what seems to be great difficulty. The clouds we are able to see all the time, but we know that the sun is shining above the clouds. And in the same way, we know that God is within each and all of the citizens of this country, the challenges it faces, the good that it has done, and the wonderful future that it will enjoy. Shall we go within for 90 seconds?